Hey guys, and in this video I'll be talking about my thoughts throughout these races of me driving S-Class cars with global controls. This first race is a Venom versus Venom race, but I am on global controls and they are on switch controls. And you could tell, this first turn I go a lot tighter than them, and I also do a punch drift. Now with punch drifts, usually on switch, you only do it after you land from a ramp. But with global controls, especially on cars like the Venom and other S-Class cars, you're going to want to do it a lot more. Like even this turn right here I did a punch, and I'm actually maintaining a lot of speed. And this right here I did a punch, but this next turn right here I don't do a punch. And you can just see that the speed drops. Even though I'm going up to 470, I drop back down to like 390 and he catches right back up. So yeah, with a car like the Venom, I think ALU controls are actually pretty nice. I think they work better than the switch controls. Those switch controls are still busted. Like for example right there, I had so less speed than him that like I just could go there normally and he crashes and I don't. Unfortunately here, because I'm going so slow, I missed my drift apex. I just ran into the top wall, but first race not that bad. Alright, so this next race here is a Deus Vayan on one of the Himalaya tracks. I'll be doing the same thing I did with the Venom first drift. I'm doing a punch drift to maintain some good drift speed. And realistically, this track is a bunch of straights. I missed that 360 there, but it's okay. Pretty basic run so far. Nothing too much out of the ordinary. But I will say that something's odd about these 360s. Like I find it hard to land and stop the 360. I think on switch you could just hold down the button and it'll always stop your 360, but in this case with ALU drifting it kind of doesn't. It's weird. Sometimes it's just overspin more. Maybe it's a skill issue, but what wasn't a skill issue was that floaty drift that I did. If you notice, if you go back and look at the KMH, I actually gained a little bit of speed on that floaty drift. Unfortunately though, I'm going to lose this race, but I still think this was a pretty good race. So overall, pretty good. Alright, next race I am still using the Deus Vayan, but we got Caribbean. It's a 1v1 against the same guy, but this track is a lot more twisty, so it might be a little more close. I get a pretty good start here, using the same strategies as I would on Switch, but I'm just taking tighter turns at the start, and this car is really good Excel, so it kind of makes it a lot easier to drive. Unfortunately though, I missed this ramp, but it's still pretty good. Like I feel like global controls on S-Class cars actually feels really good, and as long as you keep your fundamentals the same, like you can still drive S-Class cars really well. You do have to know when to drift and when not to drift. Like for example right here, like I land and do a punch drift, and that maintains a good enough speed. Like I actually carried a lot of speed there until I rammed into the wall. And then here again, like I'm still losing speed, but because of my car's acceleration, I'm able to maintain really well. And here, unfortunately, I go a little too wide, but it's okay. Well, not really okay. You know, it's still learning. I try to take this barrel to like get the win, and I just don't get it. So I try to do a floaty. I didn't get the floaty either, but barely beat him. Pretty lucky. So that's good. Alright, next race is against a Venom and a Yesco. That's crazy. So at the start here, it's just very basic driving. Like it's honestly crazy to me how like little it feels like it changes. Like I know it changes a lot, but I could get used to this, and I think if everyone just keeps a mindset of like you can get used to this, it's not that bad. Really, like even multiplayer against people who are on Switch controls, I can still do pretty good against them. Like sure, they would have to make a little bit of mistakes like that guy just did, but overall, I don't think it's that bad. Here I probably should have drifted and gotten the barrel, but meh. And I don't think that right route is faster anymore with global controls, because unless you're on like a really agile car, but in S-Class cars it's definitely better to just go straight there. And here's the thing again, like I'm definitely holding left to stop my ground 360, but it just doesn't come, and that's like one of the weirdest things. Maybe it's just a skill issue, but I don't know. So when exactly should we be doing floaties? That is a question that I had, and yesterday when I was doing it, I tried 316 on that Greenland track specifically, uh, on those like massive turns. But I think the only time to 360 to do a floaty is when you're already at your top speed, because it gives you the highest chance of maintaining. But then again, I did do it on the Deisvayan on that Himalayas track, so a little complicated. But I think if you're at your top speed and the drift is like long enough, maybe you should do it. Here again, I'm just doing a punch, same thing as last time with the Deisvayan, and yeah, I don't get to catch my drift, but you'll see that like the car for some reason on global controls actually, I don't know why, but it just feels bouncier. Like I never bounced there, and I did then. And maybe it's not the controls, but I feel like it is. And look at this. Oh, oh yeah. Unfortunate for that guy. I beat him on the line twice. This next track is Osaka, and this is a testament to how well global controls actually can compete with switch controls. I mean, just look at this. This track is very twisty, but if you just drive like you usually would, and you try not to over overdrive yourself with like the ALU controls, it's actually really nice. Like, though everyone does kind of die out, like this turn right here was bad, but everything else was like so far pretty good. And this track is super hard to control your car on usually. I will say though, this next coming turns are quite hard. I've seen people use their nitro in between these little straights, but I opted to do it this way where I just shockwave out, which is a strategy a lot of people might want to learn, because there's turns where instead of just doing a drift like we usually would on Switch, you want to turn the car, because the car on ALU drifting actually gets a lot more grip than you think. It's strange. On Switch, I feel like the car is a lot more, like, it just goes wider and has less grip on every single drift compared to ALU. And I don't actually think that's because of the top speed differences or the drift speed differences. I I don't know what it is, but trust me on it, you'll notice it when you play, that certain turns you can just like turn the car and then shockwave out, or you can just blue nitro a turn, which is very crucial for like cars that have really good handling. Mainly like C class and B class cars could do it. Not so much about S class cars, but yeah, it's still important to learn. Like, remember that when ALU comes out, drifting is not the go-to. If you drift, if you're drifting as much as you usually do on Switch, you're not gonna be doing that well. Like, you can tell that like I'm drifting here, and I'm losing so much time. Like, I have to drift there because I'm so used to it. This turn coming up though, don't drift this turn. The one that I just did, like that's so much worse. If you have proper nitro management, blue nitro in that turn is so much better. And that's stuff that you guys are gonna have to learn and practice, because that is gonna like shave off around like half a second from not drifting there, because you're gonna be keeping top speed. And when you're on blue nitro, it gives you more grip to make these tighter turns. So blue nitro or purple nitro or perfect nitro, whatever you guys want to call it, is going to be so crucial to learn. And another testament to just how good I feel like ALU controls compared to Switch, like global controls, is just I'm on the Aston Martin Valhalla, which is nowhere as near as good as like the Venom or the Chiron. And theoretically, it should not be this close, but it's pretty good. Like then again, I did the blue nitro stuff. I kept grip. Usually I go wide there, even if I do blue nitro with Switch controls. Like, it's interesting, but stuff like this you're gonna have to learn if you want to be good at ALU, which is why I recommend everyone like genuinely play with Auto Excel on. Like, in a month from now, you're forced to play with Auto Excel on. Like, what's the point of waiting a month to just suffer? You might as well like practice right now and check that out. Stole the guy's second place. Get wrecked. Alright, next track is on 1,000 Minarets. I'm on the Aston Martin Valkyrie again. Against a Elvian and a Chiron. So, here we go. Looks pretty standard. I go a little too high for this, which is still fine. Now, you'll notice in this pyramid section, we usually do a drift to the right and punch nitro, but we're just going to be doing a blue nitro here, which is faster, and a 360 to the right to floaty to the left, shockwave out. This is very fundamental gameplay that you would see Legend League players do in, you know, on global when we get it. So if you're not practicing this stuff now, you are very much behind the game already. Luckily the guy in front of me does crash, but now this 360 degree turn, there's actually a strategy that they use where they shockwave on the 360 turn, and you'll see it here. You go wide and then shockwave and then go drift again, and that actually does save time. I did it pretty poorly. That's just because I haven't practiced it, but people actually do that, and it is faster. Like cars with high excel, if you do that, that is faster. It's with cars with low excel though, like for example TVR, you just want to like turn the car without a drift, if that makes sense. It's interesting. Stuff like this, you usually would just drift, but this is not switch controls, and you can't rely on just drifting anymore. If you rely so much about your nitro management on drifting or nitro leaching, you're not going to be good at ALU. You're going to have to know how to maintain your nitro based on ramps and other things. You're still going to be like, you know, you're still definitely going to be like nitro leaching and wall riding and all this stuff to maintain nitro, but it's not going to be as reliant as it is on switch. Here I forgot to drift because, well, I don't know. It felt like it might not be better to drift there, but I think it is. And then I get a nice 360. Also, yeah, this is a Venom. This is also a Tug'Ster, so I'm pretty happy that I got this track. But even with the Tug'Ster, like, I'm still beating people. I'm really surprised by this, because when I played this, when I went into this, I wasn't expecting to win as many races as I did or be competitive as I was. This really should open the eyes of many people of like, maybe it definitely still is. Switch is definitely still a lot better. If you put the same skilled person, like if you put a clone of me racing against myself on ALU controls, no way ALU controls wins. But I do think that it can be learned pretty quickly, ALU controls. Here the car goes wide, so unlucky. Oh, by the way, the Venom and the Tug'Ster, like the Venom becomes so much better on global, and the Tug'Ster becomes so much worse, just because of the wide drifting. Usually the Tug'Ster can like make around the same times, nearly, and be as competitive, but no, not on ALU controls. It just loses too much speed. And usually on that turn we do a drift, but now that we don't do a drift there, we now just wall ride, and unfortunately I'm against a Gamera, so yeah. I think though ALU controls have so much technique to them, and there's so much to learn about these ALU controls that if you give yourself 1 whole month of just straight up driving on auto excel, you really could like start off with a great footing during ALU. Like, it's so unfortunate, and I don't want to be the one that has to change my controls to, like, it sucks, and I'm so annoyed at it. I spent 4 years practicing switch controls, and now I have a month to learn ALU controls. But it has to happen, and the best thing that we can do is just review our own gameplay, watch over people's gameplay, practice what we see, and yeah. If I were to do like some bullet point stuff on knowing what to do for ALU, first of all, watch videos, obviously. Second of all, learn how to punch nitro. Punch nitro is going to be so useful on global, as well as learning how to do like knowing when to blue nitro and perfect nitro, learning when to not drift and when to drift. Everything is going to be so crucial, including floaties. But those are all the runs in the video, in the races that I had for this video. I genuinely hope this helped. Yeah, Switch controls versus global controls are pretty close.